Hello IP4. This is our fifth video lesson and it's the first lesson that you should receive today on Friday. So make sure that this is the first Friday lesson that you watch. So first, like we always do, we're going to check the homework that I gave you on Tuesday. Okay, so on Tuesday, your homework was workbook page 80, and we were talking about abbreviations. So, section A, we needed to give abbreviations for any word that we could give an abbreviation for. So, number one, Wednesday, October 11th. You should have changed Wednesday to WED periods and October to OCT periods. Number two, Mr. Roberto Perez Jr. You should have changed Mr. to MR periods and Junior to JR periods. Number three is a married woman named Eva Dansk. For a married woman, we use Mrs. MRS periods. Now, number four, 24 Ashley Road, Augusta, Maine. I told you you didn't need to change Maine. We are not worried about states, but you should have changed road to RD periods. Number five, Post Office Box 101. Change Post Office to P period O periods. Number six, Fuzzy Top Hat Company. You change company to CO periods. And number seven, Saturday, February 28th. You change Saturday to SAT periods and February to FEB periods. Right, section B, we've got these addresses and we had to change the underlined words. Again, I did tell you don't change the states, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. So number 8, Mr. MR periods, Senior, SR periods, and Avenue, AVE periods. Number 9, Company is CO periods, and Boulevard is BLVD periods. Number 10, Doctor, DR periods, and Drive, again, DR periods, but it means a different thing. Okay, so give yourselves a score out of 7 for section A, a score out of 3 for section B, and a total out of 10. And I hope in total everyone's getting at least 7, but ideally 10. Okay, today we're talking about quotation marks. So lesson 5, quotation marks. Now we did quotations in IP3, so I hope that you remember what quotation marks are and that you remember the rules for using them. So, a direct quotation is when we write the exact words someone says. And a direct quotation can be at the beginning or the end of a sentence. And we use quotation marks before and after a direct quotation. So we use these quotation marks that look like 2 sixes before the first word someone says. And we use these 2 quotation marks that look like a pair of 9s after the last word someone says. So here's some examples. Have you ever been to Japan? Asked Ten. Asked Ten tells us who is speaking, but the words inside the quotation mark show us exactly what he says. And in this sentence, the quotation is at the beginning of the sentence. Ozone answered, no, I haven't. Again, the words Ozone answered tell us who is speaking, but the words no, I haven't inside the quotation marks tell us the exact words he said. Now, when you are using quotation marks, it's important that you only put the quotation marks around the exact words that someone is saying. You don't put them around the words that say who is speaking. So it's wrong to say, I like cheese said pumping inside quotation marks, but I like cheese inside quotation marks, said Peng Ping, is correct. So again, we only use quotation marks to show a speaker's exact words. So you wouldn't put Mu Ping said I want to go home inside quotation marks, but you would put I want to go home inside quotation marks next to said Mu Ping. Also, we can use what's called reported speech, where we don't use quotation marks at all, and we have a sentence that just tells us what someone has said, but we're not using their exact words. So Mu Ping said she wanted to go home. She doesn't use the exact words, she wanted to go home, but you can write a sentence telling us what she did say without using an exact quotation. Okay, please get your textbook and open to page 182. Like we usually do, if you don't have your textbook, when I tell you to pause the video, you'll need to write. So, questions 1 to 11, we need to add quotation marks where they are needed. So, number 1, Ms. Diaz asked, have you read Aesop's Fables? You need to decide where the quotation marks need to go. Now, some sentences do not need quotation marks. They don't tell us exactly what someone said. So you need to be very careful. Okay, so please pause the video, and when you have finished questions 1 to 11, you can press play to start. So please pause now. Okay, if you have finished up to number 11, keep watching for the answers. Right, number 1, Ms. Diaz asked, quotation mark, have you read Aesop's Fables? Close quotation mark. Quotation mark, I've read them all, quotation mark, Nick exclaimed. Now, number 3, James explained that the characters are talking animals. This is what I was just talking about, reported speech. We don't see the exact words that James says, so we don't need quotation marks there. Number 4, Melissa told us that each story teaches a lesson. Again, we don't see Melissa's exact words, so we don't use quotation marks. Number 5, quotation mark, Aesop lived over 2,000 years ago, quotation mark, Callie added. Number 6, quotation mark, he was captured by pirates and taken to Greece, quotation mark, she said. Number 7, again, we don't need a quotation mark. Callie explained that Aesop worked in a court of law. We don't see Callie's exact words. And number 8, quotation mark, many of his stories were used to make a point in court, quotation mark, she said. So give yourselves a score out of 8. I know some of them might have been a little bit difficult if you were looking at the ones where we didn't need quotation marks. But I hope that everyone got at least 5 and hopefully 7 or 8. Okay, now look at the top of page 183. You need to do very similar to what you've just done, but if there's something that doesn't need a quotation mark, I want you to write the word correct. So if the sentence needs quotation marks, you add them. If the sentence does not need quotation marks, you just write the word correct. So again, please pause the video, and when you've finished up to number 16, you can press play to continue. Okay, have you finished? If you're finished, keep watching for the answers. Number 9, quotation mark, I remember that one, quotation mark, exclaimed Ashley. Number 10, Vanessa asked, quotation mark, do you remember what the crow wanted? Quotation mark. Number 11, quotation mark, the crow was thirsty and wanted water, quotation mark, answered Antonio. Number 12, Henry said, quotation mark, some water was at the bottom of the jar, quotation mark. Number 13, Brandon explained that the crow couldn't push the jar over is correct. You didn't need to add a quotation mark. Number 14, quotation mark, the crow filled the jar with pebbles, quotation mark, Ashley added. Number 15, quotation mark, little by little the level of the water rose, quotation mark, Ben said. Number 16, Kimmy asked if we knew what lesson the fable teaches was correct. Okay, that is the end of this lesson. Your homework for this lesson is workbook page 88. And again, today is Friday. You're getting 2 lessons today. Make sure you finish workbook page 88 before you watch the second video. So finish the workbook, then watch the next lesson, lesson 112. Before we finish, I'm just going to tell you how to do the homework. Okay, this is your homework, workbook page 88. So, like we've just done, I want you to write these sentences correctly. We've got 10 sentences. If the sentence needs quotation marks, write it with quotation marks. If the sentence is correct and doesn't need quotation marks, then you don't need to write it again, you just write the word correct. Okay, IP4, so that's the end of this lesson. Like I told you, please make sure you do workbook page 88 before you watch video for lesson 112. So until you watch that video, for now, thank you, IP4.